Alright, what's up everybody? So, it's difficult sometimes, man, trying to stay rational in a world where I feel so many people let themselves be entirely guided by emotion nowadays. Hogwarts Legacy, I think, is a prime example when it comes to that, where, of course, there is the boycott situation, which I've talked extensively about for the past couple of weeks. That whole story has seemed to have gotten, some kind of tail still, right? Where we saw in the past week, I think, some streamers literally being targeted for playing the game by people in their chats, essentially telling them that they weren't allowed to do that. We've seen some reviews come out. For example, there was a review posted very recently by Wired I saw, where they gave the game a 1 out of 10 score, where it was entirely evident that the person who reviewed the game, the score wasn't based on the actual quality of it. It was just based on a personal vendetta that the writer seemed to have, against J.K. Rowling's involvement, right? And so, this is the thing that I wanted to get into, though. That emotion being driven by your personal grievances and biases, I guess, it doesn't just happen on one side, right? I mean, we see it literally play out on the opposite side of that same debate too, where some people now have a little voice almost inside their head telling them like, you should support this game no matter what, just to spite basically those people on the internet trying to tell you you can't buy Hogwarts Legacy for this and this reason, right? And so now you've got people saying, I'm gonna buy 3, 4 copies of the game, it's the best game ever made. They're trying to hype it up. The user scores on Metacritic are actually much higher than the critic scores, which is interesting. And, of course, that sparks a whole discussion then of, are the critics wrong? Are the users wrong? What causes this? It's not even a huge disconnect, I will say. Critics have been relatively fair, if you'd ask me, regarding the review process overall, which was, of course, good to see. But yeah, especially for somebody like me, as I said, I try to always maintain rationality as best as I can, right? Even though that's difficult sometimes, and I will be the first person to admit it. Yes, I also have my biases, and they can, for example, come too in the sense of simply feeling an attachment to the Harry Potter universe, which is something I definitely not so much felt anymore nowadays, but I used to be a huge fan of the books and the movies, which I read and saw literally dozens of times. I grew up with that series, and of course I wanted Hogwarts Legacy therefore to succeed, because this was the dream all along. We wanted to get that ultimate Harry Potter open world experience, which we never quite did before. Some of the old school PlayStation 1 and PS2 games were pretty good. Even the PS3 versions, which already sort of gave you, I guess, a bit more of an accurate, realistic representation of Hogwarts that you could explore, weren't bad by any means, but they weren't great either, right? This is always kind of the problem that you had with all the movie tie-in releases. And so, yeah, I don't know, man, but Hogwarts Legacy was always looking like that very first time we would truly get an experience in this universe that would live up to not only the name and the franchise, but also just be a damn good video game finally, right? And so, let me cut away here from all my, I guess, introducing the review itself of this game. So here's the thing. I beat Hogwarts Legacy, actually, a day ago from the moment I'm recording this. So that was Friday, actually, when I beat the game. I put about 20 hours into it. I say that I beat it. That's not entirely true, because there's still one mission left, I think, for which the level cap is so much higher than the previous one, so I still need to do a bunch of grinding before I can unlock it, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to be sort of a final cutscene, rounding off the storyline, and that's it. Other than that, I've seen most of what's there, at least in terms of story content. Didn't actually end up getting a copy from Warner Brothers. I don't know why, because they had promised me that I would be getting one. I actually just ended up buying the game by myself. I'm the kind of person that's not going to be chasing them then if that happens. Like, oh, why did I not end up getting one? Is it because I talked about the controversy surrounding it leading up to launch or whatever? Then again, like I said, I want to stay entirely independent, and so I'm not going to be chasing them, trying to beg for it or whatever. Because it's only, again, that's only going to create more of a bias. I just ended up buying the game then by myself, checking it out, and honestly, gives me all the more reason to be entirely fair in my review of it. So, yeah, guys, let's just get into it. I guess I don't want to get too ahead of myself and already sort of give you a little verdict here, but I feel like it's the best thing to do, because what I realized after playing it is that this game is damn good. It's super addictive. I mean, the only reason I've already put 20 hours into this game in the span of literally a couple of days, because I've played it since Tuesday. I bought the deluxe edition, and so The only time that a game can get me to put that much time into it is if I'm really enjoying myself. And so evidently, I absolutely did. At the same time, I do think Hogwarts Legacy, it's a game that simply ticks all the boxes. And that's not in any way a bad thing. It might actually be what we've wanted from it all along, right? It's what I talked about. We wanted this to be the ultimate Harry Potter experience, and that's what it is. But it also, if you'd ask me, does not necessarily stand out in any way where, oh, the story is super memorable and we're going to be talking about it years down the line. No, we won't. Gameplay-wise, the combat is very fun. I love how seamless the world is in general, where you can just go to one of the outside areas of Hogwarts, pull out your broom, and just take off, right? To explore the large area outwards of it, surrounding Hogwarts in itself. You can go to Hogsmeade, of course, which is where you'll usually do most of your shopping. And so it gives you that more traditional open world experience, which it's, I guess what I ultimately mean to say is that Hogwarts Legacy is not doing anything that games before haven't already done. It's a first for the Harry Potter series, right? And so what you get is a damn good video game if you're a Harry Potter fan taking place in its universe. It's also at the same time the thing that does stand out the most about it is the setting. Hogwarts is just magical, right? And even exploring some of its interiors, I guess, yeah, they've been super well designed. Like, the castle feels so alive. You constantly see, of course, paintings being alive, I guess. You see students doing all kinds of activities. Some of them that will be literally walking up on walls vertically or whatever, right? Everything about it just feels magical. There is tons of reasons for you to explore. I saw that the game literally has over 1,000 collectibles total, which is insane. And I'm genuinely contemplating now, having beaten the story, if I even want to go and try and collect it all. I feel like it's a bit of a daunting task, but yeah, then again, I just enjoy spending time in this world. That's what's so fantastic about it, where I think most open world games sort of fall for the trap of like offering a bunch of quote-unquote content. The setting is not really one where you want to spend too much time because, you know, like these fields just feel repetitive, right? The areas feel repetitive. And Hogwarts Legacy has some of that, mostly there to give you a sense of freedom and then also to increase your playtime with a bunch of extra content overall. So one last thing that I definitely do have to touch on is the soundtrack, which once again only contributes to that magical feeling. I love how most of the songs feel like derived from the movie soundtrack while not being the exact same thing. So you'll actually notice a lot of songs that you feel like sound reminiscent to you, right? And you almost, at least in my case, you feel like whistling along with them until you realize that, like, oh wait, it's not the actual same song that I remember. And so that's what's great about it. It gives you a super similar vibe. It makes you all nostalgic, while at the same time the content is new nonetheless. It's not rehashed music just for the sake of, oh, it's the easy thing to do, and that's how we're gonna get you, you know, all in on your nostalgic feelings, like I said. Now, when you get to the gameplay, that's where I feel like you really start to notice exactly what I said about the game wanting to tick all the boxes. Is that, for example, in terms of customization, you constantly find loot that has particular stats, and so you end up switching out your gear on the go. They also, like, they gave them upgrade slots, so you can go to your room of requirement and then actually apply particular extra stats to those clothes. But that's also where you, at the same time, run into many problems, where, like, the clothes that you find are constantly leveling up along with your own level in the game. So what does that mean? You're constantly switching out your gear. There is no real reason to want to upgrade any of the gear that you have and apply new things, new stat enhancements to it, or to buy, for example, gear in the store, because the moment you level up, that gear automatically becomes outdated. You get what I'm saying? And so it won't really benefit you to buy any clothes or to try to upgrade them until you've literally hit max level in the game, I feel, and you're only gonna find loot that is max level just like you are. When it comes to the combat, yeah, combat feels very satisfying to use. Can be quite challenging depending on what difficulty setting you set it to. They've made it quite difficult on themselves, I guess, by featuring about 25 plus spells, I think it is in total, 16 of which you can actually slot to your face buttons and then use R2 to, I guess, switch around 4 categories that you can make. So you have 4 categories of 4 spells that you yourself can structure the way you want. It forces you to do a lot of quick thinking on the fly as you're in these situations, because it's really neat how you can combine certain spells. For example, use Accio on an enemy to pull him towards you, then use Incendio to create this fire blast that affects only your nearby surroundings, and so you'll hit that enemy that way. Then maybe send it flying away with like Bombarda or one of these other more powerful, I guess, spells that you have. It's awesome, but at the same time, they create a bit of a problem for themselves where, you know, you also have to do a bunch of rolling and parrying, I guess, for which they do give you indicators, of course. There's an orange or a red indicator showing up every now and then, but again, that forces you to pay a lot of attention to like, oh shit, am I being attacked here? If you're still trying to pull off combos in the meantime, it can be a little bit finicky, also because it uses the exact same buttons for those things, right? So like, if you want to roll away, you'll use circle the same way that you might want to use circle to actually perform one of your spells while holding R2 at the same time. In the meantime, you have to press R2 constantly for basic cast as well. It's a little chaotic. Then they also, for example, have a wheel for you to bring up certain potions that you might want to use in combat. I myself honestly stayed away from that entirely. Again, the game gives you all the options that you want, but the question is, are you going to really make a use of most of it? I felt like, yes, you can have 26 spells, but you can get through the game just fine using only 4 of them. You get what I'm saying? You don't have to use any of them. You're never forced to use any of the potions either and craft them and wait for them to be crafted or something like that. Find the ingredients. You can play this game exactly how you want to play it, but it also doesn't mean that everything about it is very well thought out, therefore. You know, for example, there is a stealth system, which ultimately is just super basic. It's cool that you can actually use a particular spell to go in hiding and become invisible, but all you gotta do is just walk up on enemies and press square. As long as you stay hidden, I guess, a little bit from nearby enemies, then you'll be doing just fine. If they spot you, you go into combat. There isn't really much more to it than that. Like I said, none of it is really well thought out or super deep or complex. It's just they do all the things that you've already seen other games do in the past. They don't do it particularly better than any of those games, but nonetheless, you can't help but enjoy yourself because this is all taking place in a setting that is so alive, that you love so much if you're a fan of the Harry Potter franchise at least, and so you're gonna have a fantastic time. When it comes to the collectibles, yeah, that's honestly what I see myself doing now, having beaten the main portion of the story, is that I'm just gonna go and do whatever I actually enjoy doing, which for the most part is the broom races, for example, right? There's a couple missions related to that and a couple extra things that you can do. I'll probably try and get all the collectibles in Hogwarts. I don't enjoy doing it as much in the surrounding areas because that just feels like your typical open world experience where the areas don't really stand out in any way. That's really what the game is to me. It's just giving you basically a bunch of options and telling you, do whatever the hell you want, play as much as you want to play of this game. We're just gonna give you all the options and we're gonna give you the choice of how exactly you want to experience this game. Do you want to try and, you know, go more for the stealthy approach and actually make use of those features that we have? You don't have to. You can also just literally fight enemies head on using the combat. You can use combos if you want. You can stay away from it. The game really is like, do whatever the hell you want. And that's fine, but it's also not super well refined in any of those areas, therefore. Last of all, maybe I can quickly touch on the story. I like how, story-wise, they've definitely taken inspiration from the original Harry Potter stories, I guess, where you just notice a bunch of familiar elements. So you're gonna use your pensieve, I think it's called, right, to like go back and sort of relive other people's memories, just like Harry did it, I think, in the 6th book and movie, you know, together with Dumbledore. Even that mechanic of like, oh, you going on this mission together with your professor kind of seems like Harry and Dumbledore used to do in the 6th book, like I said. So that's all cool. Of course, you can follow classes, which is all part of the main story, right? You have your classmates, which even there, the cast of characters, I don't know, I don't... Like, they do give him personality, and there's a couple ones that they specifically focus on, but they don't stand out to me much. I did find myself honestly skipping dialogue a lot of times. Not really skipping, I guess. I was still reading through it, but the delivery can be a bit slow and sluggish, and it's constantly halting the game, with a bunch of these conversations, which I myself don't really have the patience for, honestly. But it's also, I mean, you guys know me. I've never been a biggest fan of the traditional RPG experience, and so even there, like, it gives you the option. Do you actually want to listen to all this stuff, or do you not care for it that much, and do you just want to skip through it? Now, if anything, where your classmates and some of the other side characters in the main story can feel a little void of personality, I was actually surprised that the teachers do not. The teachers really stood out to me. Yeah, impressively enough. I wasn't expecting that at all, but I do feel the game actually underutilized them. Like, you have your headmaster, and he is an amazing character, super extravagant and egotistical for sure, but you only see him a couple of times, and I really wasn't fond of that at all. Maybe it's in some of the side quests still that I haven't seen, where he plays a bit of a bigger role. Yeah, same goes for, like, you have your potions teacher, who does seem like a bit of an equivalent of, like, Snape, I guess, himself. And the same goes for Professor Weasley, so, she's obviously tied to Ron's family. But, yeah, she's like headmaster of, or like, I don't know what that's called anymore, but housemaster, I guess, or Gryffindor or whatever, right? And she definitely gives off McGonagall vibes, so all of them do feel sort of familiar to their counterparts in the main series, but they were almost just as good, if you'd ask me, and I was definitely surprised by that. I kind of wish, like I said, that you had actually spent more time with them in the game overall, because you don't. You spent most of your time with Professor Fig, who actually, like, yeah, he didn't really resonate with me too much. And the same goes for those classmates, like I said, which can be a little lacking personality-wise, if you'd ask me. Now, I really think that says it all. There isn't all that much to talk about when it comes to that game, I feel. I think most of the conversation here has been a little bit generic, and that's because this game doesn't do anything that we haven't already seen other games do a million times. Like I said, it's just the first for the Harry Potter series, and that's a great thing. If you like the series, you're gonna love this game. You're gonna no doubt have a fantastic time with it. Everything feels addictive, fun, the setting is great. That's the thing that easily stands out the most about it. But of course, yeah, again, the setting is not something even that the developers created. The setting is something that we've already known for a couple decades now. And so, Hogwarts Legacy is absolutely a game to be recommended to anyone who loves Harry Potter. You're gonna have a fantastic time with it. But, I talked about it in the intro. I do want to stay as unbiased about it as possible, and I feel like the game has both negatives and positives. Is it a super memorable game that I'm gonna be talking about years down the line? No, I don't really see myself doing so. I do think that an eventual sequel, which I've no doubt in my mind, judging by how amazing the game seems to be performing right now, more is coming up for this, right? And so I think that with a sequel, they can really go a little deeper into trying to create a narrative that is going to stick, and maybe expanding on some of the gameplay facets exponentially in a way where it will make it stand out from other games that we've already played before. If they do that, then a sequel actually has a lot of potential, and I'll definitely be looking forward, of course, to whatever that game brings. But for now, guys, that was everything, all my thoughts about Hogwarts Legacy so far. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Have you been playing it yourself? What do you think about it so far? Of course, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because I'll continue to be giving you all videos on the latest gaming news and game releases on a weekly basis. And then for now, I want to thank you all a lot for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you back in the next video.